Hey guys, welcome back. Time for another game discussion video. I just beat another game today. And, you know, this YouTube thing is great because it's actually given me an incentive to really put my nose to the grindstone and work through this collection. Otherwise, I might be, being a lot more lax about it. But, beat another game, and I'm kind of ready to talk about it. God, this is like the fourth or fifth take of this video because I just start rambling and lose my place. Usually takes about 6 takes before I get a video out, so we'll see if this one actually makes it. But the game we're going to discuss today is Tales of Eternia on the PSP. Now, you'll notice with all the different things on there that this is actually a European copy because Namco and Ubisoft, they didn't think it would be a good idea to bring it out over here. Yeah, thanks guys. But thanks to the PSP being region-free, I imported it from Europe and played through it and enjoyed it. So, haha, take that 3DS with your stupid region locking. This is a port of a PS1 RPG. You'll remember it as Tales of Destiny 2. They had to change the name due to He-Man because Mattel had a trademark on Eternia due to that being the world of He-Man. So Ubisoft could not bring it out over here as Tales of Eternia. And this is the third Tales game that I've played through to completion. And while I really enjoyed my time with this, and I think this is a fantastic RPG, as a Tales game, coming off of Vesperia and coming off of Symphonia, this one doesn't hold up as well. And, even an average Tales of game is better than most of the stuff out there. Like, I enjoyed this more than I enjoyed Final Fantasy 13. So, if you enjoy old school, especially PS1 era RPGs, this is a must buy because you'll really enjoy your time with it. As far as whether to import this on your PSP or to try to find a Tales of Destiny 2 on the PS1, that's really up to you. I chose to import this because even with the cost of the European copy and the shipping to America, it was still cheaper at that time than a complete copy of Tales of Destiny 2 for the PS1. So that's why I got this version. It's a straight port. I don't know if they added anything more to it. I couldn't find any information on that, whether they add anything more to it or not. But, yeah. So the storyline, the storyline is entertaining. Let me just put it that way. It's not the greatest story I've ever witnessed in a video game, nor is it the worst. It's just kind of middle of the road for me. And, that's partly because I've played a lot of great RPGs, and this is an older RPG. PlayStation 1 era, the storylines weren't as evolved as they are now, much like storylines at this era are more evolved than like the Super Nintendo era. But, it didn't set my world on fire, but at the same time, I wasn't put out by it. So, and it involves, let me see if I'll just cover up Meredy there. 3 childhood friends who live in the same village, of course, and they all have an interconnected past to a tragic event. And through the course of the game, of course, this comes out, and by the end of the game, you figure out what really happened. It involves them actually, when they were children, sort of mistakenly releasing an unspeakable evil into the world. And so through, the course of the game, they get swept up into these world-shattering events and, of course, have to save the day. And that is all brought to a fore by the introduction of this little girl named Meredy, who comes from a different world called Celestia. And I'm going to pause here to talk about the game world because it's kind of interesting how they did it. What it is there are 2 planets, and they're really close to each other, although they never explain how they can exist like that without a gravity well between them. But hey, well, maybe the barrier. And 2 planets really close together, and a big barrier in between them. And this barrier is impenetrable except for one spot to get through. So, we don't really know if it's impenetrable or not because Meredy comes crashing through it in one of her ship. But for some reason they can't get through it. I don't know. Vague. Anyway, So Merity comes from Celestia, which is the planet above, to the planet below. To I can't really remember her initial reason for coming down there, but it ends up she crashes into the other three characters' home village, and of course it causes a big stir because ooh, a Celestians down here on Inferia, we don't like them, blah blah blah. But the three friends befriend Merity, and through her actions, they become swept up into this huge event, which involves this character named Shinzel trying to cause what's called the Grand Fall, which is to make the barrier non-existent between the two planets and have them crash into each other. And supposedly, well, in reality, it's going to destroy everything, but she believes it's going to cause a rebirth of the way the planets were before this god Seifert changed everything. I know I'm rambling here and this sounds really crazy, but if you play the game, it does make a bit of sense, you know. So for the most part, the storyline is, you know, pretty much three childhood friends set out to save the world. You know, how many times have we played that game? But, you know, RPGs, sometimes these kind of stories are like a warm blanket that you're like, oh, okay, I understand the conditions of the genre here, and I can appreciate it. So the characters are pretty much all likable, and this is where we get into a weird thing, because this game is fully voiced, and usually I'm not a big fan of voice acting in games because more often than not it's bad. And while the voice acting in this game is passable, it's not like horrendously bad like, you know, some of those, you know, older voice acted games on the TurboGrafx. It still leaves a lot to be desired. Like, it's not bad, it's just weird because the inflections are wrong. So, like, you know, when something bad happens and the character's like, no, you know, like that, instead of like really selling the no, it's almost like they recorded the dialogue in a room that's right next to their parents' bedroom while they were sleeping. So instead of like a big like no, like it's like no, you know, like the intensity and the inflection's wrong. And sometimes, especially when the characters are asking questions, it sounds really weird. So, you know, while voice acting will never turn me off of a game, I won't stop playing a game because of bad voice acting, because, you know, unless it's a bad game. It is a little bit weird, and I actually did notice one hiccup with the voice acting in a later scene where characters are talking, but it actually played audio from when the characters meet Merity for the first time, and it was really strange, and I don't know if it's a glitch that's just on my disc, if it was just that one playthrough, or if it's a big glitch on every disc. So if anyone else has played this completion, let me know if you had any glitches with the audio like that. So yeah, the story's fun. It's not going to set your world on fire, you know. I'm not going to sit here and go, this is the greatest video game story ever. But it's serviceable for the game. It keeps you wanting to play. And really, you know, that's really all you need, you know. So, what next? The gameplay. For the most part, the gameplay is pretty standard. If you've played a Tales of game, you'll know what to expect in this game. If you've never played a Tales game before, I would not start out with this because you'd probably be like, oh, you know, it's good, but not great. I would suggest starting off with like Vesperia or maybe Symphonia for the GameCube. Those ones are really highly regarded, and those are the reasons why I played those two first. Vesperia was actually my first Tales of game, so it might ruin something. Like when I play Fantasia and the first Destiny on PS1, it might ruin those ones because I played a really awesome modern day Tales, and to go back and play the old ones, you might lack the perspective, I guess. I don't know. But pretty standard stuff. You know, you travel town to town, dungeon to dungeon in an overworld, and the battles are the Tales real-time battles. But instead of it being on a 3D plane like Vesperia and Symphonia, it's on a 2D plane like a side view. So while you would think that would be like a big problem and like a big, you know, mind shift, it's really not. Actually, they play almost identical with the 3D and with the 2D. So I did have some problems with this one though, because, and I kind of have a problem with, you know, these games and with Star Ocean in the same regard, in that when I go into the menu in a battle and I go into the skills and select like Keel to cast Explosion, he better friggin' cast Explosion. It drove me nuts because I would go into the menu, have these guys, you know, I'd select individual spells for them to cast, and then they would cast something else. And this is really bad. You really have to watch your character when you're in the battle mode, because whenever they get hit, it like resets their AI. And instead of doing what you tell them to do, they just go back to doing what they want to do. And it really got frustrating in a couple battles, because there are some battles in here where you'll get your ass handed to you. And if you're not constantly telling Keel and Merity what to cast, you're going to get rocked. And you can't rely on the AI alone. You have to sort of micromanage the characters a little bit in this game. More so than, like, I never, hardly ever had to do that in Vesperia. I mean, that's how good the AI was in that. You can toggle on and off spells to kind of limit what they can cast, but they almost always will never cast what you want them to, unless it's like a healing spell. They will always heal really fast, but if you want them to cast Explosion, you basically have to turn off every spell but Explosion for them to constantly cast it. Another thing in the battle system, which this is with every Tales game, whenever you use an item, you have to wait a little bit before you can use an item again. And while I understand why that is, you know, it adds a little bit of challenge in the game, I got screwed really bad because I can only use one life bottle, you know, every few seconds. Like, two of my characters got wiped out. I used a life bottle to bring one back, and then like the other two characters got wiped out. It was just, you know, if you don't pay attention to your character's HP, you can get rocked really fast in these games. So, while the battle system, when you first start playing it in the early stages of the game, you'll feel like, oh, this is great. I can just focus on one character and the other characters will do their thing and I don't have to worry about it. When you get into the later stages of the game, you really want to stop, slow down, and kind of micromanage what the characters do, or otherwise they won't do what you want them to do and you'll get rocked. You can go into the menu and change their strategies and their tactics all you want. Just micromanage them when you get into the later sections of the game. Other than that, this game does not have skits. So for you people that don't like the Tales games because of the skits, they're optional anyway, this does not have those in it. However, if you get lost, one of the cool features is you can press, like, I think it's the select button on the world map, and like a skit, like, you know how when the skits happen, they have like the little squares of the talking heads in them. One of those will pop up with one of the characters and they'll kind of give you a hint as to where you should be going next. So that was really nice, because there was a couple times that I got lost in this game. And speaking of that, I played this mostly without a guide, and I'm telling you guys, this thing, for being a PS1 game, is packed with content. I looked at a guide as I got closer to the end, and I'm like, holy shit, I missed all of this stuff. So there's so many like side quests and side things I do in this game, and I missed a good portion of it by not following a game guide, because usually I don't like to do that, but I'm not a big person on finishing every side quest and everything in the game. I don't have to have the most powerful sword in the game, but I did miss a lot of stuff in this, so there's that. Other than that, I can't really think of anything other to tell you guys about the gameplay, because if you've ever played a Tales of game, you know exactly what to expect with this. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't reinvent the wheel, so, which is nice. I do like that. That's the reason why I like Dragon Quest so much. I know what I'm getting when I buy a Dragon Quest. With Final Fantasy, it's kind of a roll of the dice, and here lately the rolls have not been so good, but a lot of nat ones here lately. But yeah. So anyway, let's see what's next. The graphics. Okay, I am a sucker for this era of graphics. 2D, sprite-based, PS1, Super Nintendo era RPGs. My heart just melts for these things. I love sprite-based graphics. I love it when they're really colorful. And you know, I'm playing Digital Devil Saga right now, which is a 3D with a kind of a muted palette style graphics, game. So playing this was a real nice sort of refresher from that. You know what I mean? The sort of the trend nowadays is to go muted palette, realistic colors, and in my opinion, very boring. When I look at like Call of Duty or even in some cases Fallout and Skyrim, I'm a little bored by the graphics because they're so realistic. The colors are so muted that it's just not really that exciting. But when you look at a game like this, or even recently like a game like Enslaved, that was a hidden gem that just didn't get the attention it deserved. But Enslaved was a gorgeous game, lush, colorful visuals, just fantastic. So my heart really goes back to these early, colorful, sprite-based RPGs. And in that regard, I think the graphics, for my tastes, are really awesome. I don't like it so much, like there's CGI cutscenes, and I wish they would have went with anime cutscenes, because there's anime cutscenes in the beginning, like the prologue of the game, and then beautiful 2D graphics, and then it goes into these sort of 3D pre-rendered graphics for like cutscenes, and for not like character cutscenes, but like it'll show the ship like doing stuff, and it'll be in these pre-rendered 3D graphics. And I know why they did it at the time, because oh, that looks great, but it just doesn't age as well, I don't think. And it's kind of a little bit jarring to go from a beautiful hand-drawn world to sort of these computerized graphics. But the spells and stuff, they have a lot of cool effects, and they fill the screen full of sprites and pixelated art and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed the graphics. If you love 2D PlayStation 1 era graphics, this is fantastic. The music, I really enjoyed the music. Tales has some really great music. However, I will say that I didn't find this music as catchy as Symphonia or Vesperia's tracks. Good stuff, and it's good in the background, but sitting here now, like, there's not a theme that I'm humming after playing the game. Like, after I played Wild Arms, I would constantly hum the Adelheid town theme, and I really remember, one of the pieces I really remember is from Symphonia, and it's after you jump to the other world for the first time and you crash land on that mountain that I can't remember the name of, but it's just like this very, very muted, very understated track, and like I can hear it in my head, but I can't like hum it for you. But it was just, there is some really good tracks in here, but for the most part, they're nice while you're playing, but they're forgettable when you stop playing. So, all in all, I would say Tales of Eternia is something you should look into if you don't want to spend the money on Tales of Destiny 2 and you want to have every Tales game. If you are kind of on the fence about the Tales series, I would say skip this one until you like it more. Go for Vesperia, go for Symphonia. Tales of the Abyss is going to be on the 3DS, go for that. Tales of Grace's app for the PS3 is going to be out here soon, go for that. This one can wait until you like the series more. I don't want to say it's for diehards only, but on the other hand, if you give this to a person that's new to the series, it's probably not going to light their fire to play the rest of the games. That's just my opinion. You might have a completely different opinion and think Eternia is the best one, but yeah. I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that I imported it and I bought it and played it. It was a fantastic game. There is some, I do have some problems with it, but it is an old PS1 game running on the PSP, so there's going to be some hiccups and some things like that. But all in all, a very enjoyable game. If you're a fan of the Tales series and you haven't played this one yet, go ahead and import it from Europe, or spend the money to get Tales of Destiny 2 for the PS1. So, Tales of Eternia for the PSP, finished, and game discussion video finally done. Made it through it. So, now that I got this done, probably going to be focusing on Cave Story 3D, to get that finished and get ready for Tales of the Abyss. I know I'm going to be jumping right to another Tales game here soon. And I'm going to go back and hit this pretty hard. I've been grinding mantras, and I kind of got sick of grinding, so I took a break from it. But I'll be hitting this hard, and we'll be doing a discussion video probably within a week, maybe. Somewhere within the span of a week I'll have this done with my work schedule and everything. And then from there, I don't know where we're going to go from there. Amazon still says that my mystery unboxing that I'm planning to do hasn't been shipped out yet. Although the stuff that I bought alongside of it has been shipped, so I'll have some of the stuff for that video, but not all of it. So if I don't get it, I have a weird feeling that I'm going to get a message from Amazon saying this has been canceled, because when I purchased it, it said it was the last one, and usually that gets a little iffy if it's actually there or not. But hopefully this person ships it out soon, and I get to show it off to you guys, because I'm really excited about this thing. Like, I was kind of on the fence when I was buying it. I actually put it in my in-basket, then took it out, and then put it back in and just bought it. But it's something I haven't ever really talked about on here, but expect a fun video there. 13-2 coming out here soon. There will be an unboxing for that, even though everyone else is going to be doing one. But I feel like I need to do one, and I feel like it's going to be a long one, because I feel like I'm going to have to justify buying all this, because 13 is nowhere near my favorite Final Fantasy. I don't even really think it is a Final Fantasy, but I'm willing to give it another shot, because back in the day, Squaresoft was a company that you bought. Well, Squaresoft and Enix were just companies that you just bought the games regardless of what they were, because you knew you were getting something quality. So I keep hoping it'll go back to that. But that's what's coming up. I pretty much did the same thing last video. I need to stop doing these. Here's what's coming up, because I don't know. I don't need to do it every video. But that was my discussion for Tales of Eternia, with rambling at the end. So I will put up another game discussion video as soon as I get another game done. Until then, maybe I'll find something fun and silly to do, like the Nintendo Power episode. Who knows? So yes, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.